Hello everyone and welcome back to round number 8 of the season 21 TGP2 season, back from the ad break there. Tonight's coverage obviously sponsored by betnoon.com for your home of TGP odds and betting requirements as we join ourselves back here in the fantastic Circuit de Castellet. We've got Bossman Sean currently on provisional pole, with many drivers still yet to run, just half the field venturing out there for the first TGP2 race, or the first French Grand Prix in TGP2's history. So as cars start to make their way either back in or on their first out laps, we'll give you a little rundown of the order for those who have run so far. So as we said, Bossman Sean currently sitting pretty on a 1 minute 31.4. Joe Sayer in second, CJ in third, Bazza fourth, Michael Kenny fifth, Russ sixth, and Jacko seventh. As we've just had Conreys pop into third, splitting the two Renaults. So those are the 8 drivers to have run so far. We've got a couple of people on the outlap, including Mr. John. Red Bull Kim's on the lap at the moment, as is our race winner from last time out, Erlang, who's just bringing himself round into the final sector at the moment. So let's see what lap time he can do. Very tricky last sector here as Bazza trying to keep himself out of the way, but very tricky as he runs wide into the last corner, a little bit squirrely on the exit. And Erlang, where's this lap going to put him? It's going to put him provisionally in P3, so another person to split the two Renaults there. As Bossman Sean, just like in Canada, the first few minutes sitting quite pretty at the top of the standings at the moment. So as we said, we've got 2 drivers out there on outlets at the moment, Dom Smith and Mr. John, as Red Bull Kim and Jack Craig, our pole sitter from last time, still sat in the pits with no time yet on the board. So let's see what happens in the next couple of exchanges. John's obviously last race was manic, it was exciting, it was full of drama. We had a virtual safety car. We had our leader taking a controlled race win. What do you see happening here?
It'll be interesting to see. It's the first proper time that it is the first time that we're going to see these guys race in anger at this circuit. It could be a chaotic start as everyone gets through the first 2 corners for the first time. As we were saying just before the little break we had, it's very easy to run wide at either part of that, so we might see a few cars taking to the runoff early on, trying to avoid some incidents. Hopefully do get a clean start though, but I think that it could be some very close racing, especially with the massively long Mistral straight, which of course is split in 2 because of the chicane, but it will be fascinating to see. As you can see there with Dom Smith, just an example of how easy it is to get it wrong up the first 2 corners as he runs wide up the second exit, the second corner as he begins his hot lap. I think he is the only one on the lap at the moment. You've got a few cars out on out laps. I think that might just be Jack Craig behind him, I believe. Apologies, a little bit of lag there, I believe.
The only other man who's on the lap at the moment, Dom Smith then heading up towards the chicane, which John has spoke about. Gas can be heavy on the brakes, they can take a lot of curb on the first exit. This one's quite tricky because the rear end just wants to kick out the whole time. And then on the power as he heads towards this long right-hander, these 2 fantastic corners we're coming up to now. So we've got a yellow flag in sector 3 there. We've got Mr. John who's coming around to finish his lap at the moment. We'll see where his lap puts him, but we're focusing on Dom Smith at the moment, coming on towards the end of sector number 2. The beginning of sector number 3 as John has put himself into P6. This very tricky long left-hander, which is so easy to run wide, which is what Dom Smith has done. And where's this lap going to put him in relation to his main rivals, Erlang, Joe and Bazza? Into this tricky last corner now. Dom Smith running a little bit wide. Not the first time he's done that this lap, but up to the alignment. This lap's going to put Dom Smith in a provisional P5. And you have to say you can probably expect Dom will do better still in this session. So we've just got 2 drivers yet to set a lap at the moment. They're both still out on track at the moment with 8.5 minutes to go. As we'll start to see the order take shape as we move through the session.
Yeah, apologies.
Sorry, Jonas.
I was just going to say, I think Don might be a bit disappointed with his lap there. He's nearly a second and a half off pole, and I feel the mistakes he made on the lap will be irritating him so he definitely has a little bit of work to do there before he can make the second run and hopefully improve his position for his championship hopes. His teammate obviously was quite a way clear before tonight, as I believe after that race, that is now what was 41 points is now just 16 to Erlang, as Joe now goes P2, just half a tenth of pole from Bossman Sean, and I think he'll be pleased with that one as we see the times continuing to tumble down here at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, as the drivers get a little bit more familiar, a little bit more comfortable with the circuit, as John has said, we should hopefully start to see the times tumble as that's the good thing about having these longer qualifying. The drivers get 3 runs in, they can go out there, they can set their first run early, come back in, they can start to learn the track. The second run, obviously then a little bit of an improvement from the first lap, and then it's all gearing up to that last run, that last banzai lap with seconds to go, which is what this qualifying system is designed to create. So are we going to get any of those said banzai laps going forward? We'd like to think so, but we'll have to wait a few more minutes before we start to see any of those.
We do have Con Rees on the lap at the moment down in P6, so he'll be looking to improve after what was a testing return for to TGP for him in Canada. He looked like he had pole early on in Canada, and then just it fell away towards the end of the session, and then got caught in some incidents that left him down the field, and I think he'd be eager to jump back up the order with this race as Bossman Sean improves again. That is a big leap up the field. A 1:30.7, that might be a challenging time to beat as we got yellow flags sector 1 and 3. I think that might just be slow moving vehicles as we continue on with Con Rees, who is on his lap. We'll be on board with him for the last few corners. You can hear that horrible engine note from the bug that is in the game, which just leaves the car on max revs all the time, so we'll come away from that as
nice
we come.
And tidy up those last couple of corners though from Con Rees, and where's this lap going to put him? It puts him in P2 on a 1:31. I think that says 1:31.4.
Yep, you would be correct.
I would be correct. So good time there from the Williams driver. He may be stuck on full revs, but he was on full attack there, trying to beat Sean's time. As we'll now see him come in shortly for an in-lap, put another set of tyres on and get going. Who is out there on a lap at the moment? Joe Sayers in the pits, as is CJ. Bazza, I think, is just about to start a lap, or is coming in on an in-lap. No, Bazza's on an in-lap. Erlang down there in 6th has just started a lap, I believe. So let's see if he can improve his position. Last time out race winner, his first win in TGP2, and as John has said, the first win for an Indonesian driver. I'm sure he'll be chuffed to bits, and the Force India team getting their first win of the season as well. And surely now they can start to look to take the fight to Luca as he makes his way onto the main straight now and up to this tricky braking zone into the chicane, which you've got to nail, or it puts you in big disadvantage on the exit. So nice entry in there, maybe not taking quite as much curb as he would have wanted, running a little bit wide from the second apex as he stamps on the power now, coming towards sector 2. As I think it says there, if I'm right, it's 2 temps up. So let's see how mighty Bossman Sean's last sector was, because if that time is anything to go by, Erlang is right on the bubble at the moment to be able to displace the Toro Rosso driver in only his second race of the season. He's still got no points on the board as Bossman Sean, but the current man on the prowl and on the hunt is Erlang in the Force India. Makes his way up now to the final 2 corners, runs a very wide in there. That would hurt him massively, but will it cost him in his bid for provisional pole position? He comes up to the line and he doesn't do it. He goes P2 on a 31.0, so the gap is just 3 temps. But you have to say that it all went wrong for Erlang at the second to last corner, and that wide line seemed to cost him.
Yeah, that was a bit of an odd line to take through there. It's not the quickest line through there. Maybe he was being a bit greedy on the throttle throughout that second to last corner, left him wide, and with a very, very tight line into the final corner, which is not the quickest way around there. But it has, that lap, even with that seemingly mistake, has put him just over 3 temps off pole, as Joe and I think Mr. John perhaps just came very close to colliding on the circuit. Joe just minding his own business. I should have got it in lap or an out lap. Mr. John on a flying lap. We'll be on board with him now throughout through the last corner. It's very, very...
Erlang said that's it. He's not going any quicker.
Yeah, that might be a time-related one. 3 minutes to go as Mr. John improves by 7 tenths, but goes up to P7. So that's a solid lap for him. He'll be pretty happy with that one. I think he'd be a bit disappointed with Joe getting in the way a bit there. I wonder if that might be looked at by the stewards later on. Meanwhile, we have Joe now starting a lap. Con Reese is just in the pit lane. So Joe Sayer in the Renault, the highest car, like highest positioned car at the moment on a flying lap.
Gets out of the way for him.
Yes, indeed. Mr. John doing very well to get out of the way there. He could have easily retaliated and got in the way of the Renault there, but that's not his way of doing things. There are green flag and Joe's backed off.
Oh, Joe, slow down.
That's interesting. I think the other Red Bull's now in front, so that's interesting. He seemed to have a decent first sector. Maybe he felt it wasn't quite good enough and decided to back out of it. It's worth putting out his ERS level is on 0, so maybe he wasn't pushing as hard as I thought, as you could just see it's almost like a formation up here, the cars weaving, the 2 Red Bulls and the Renault. As we will now look to Dom Smith, who's disappointed so far in 9th position. I think he's just about to shape up for a lap now. It will likely be his final one. We've only got 1 minute 40 left in the session as he now crosses the line to begin his final lap.
And the Renault powered traffic jam continues throughout sector number 3 as Michael Kenny calls it a day. He's going to be no better than 8th. Con Reese calls it a day. He's going to be no better than 3rd. And you have to say, although Bossman Sean in out lap at the moment looks pretty safe at the top of the field, as we have Mr. John, Joe, and Jacko, starting their lap. Actually, no, Jacko boxes, so he's had enough of the session. So far, which is a bit of an odd decision from Jacko there, but there we go. So yeah, plenty of drivers out there on laps at the moment. CJ Beach is just coming up to the line. I don't know whether he's finishing a lap or starting a lap. Yeah, I think he's starting a lap as it goes. So let's have a little look down to the other. Baza is just coming up to the final corner as well now. Is he going to be able to improve on P number 6? The Mercedes driver gets a good... he's pitting, so he's going no quicker. What's Bossman Sean do? I think he's just starting at that. Yep, Bossman Sean is starting at that there. How's Dom getting on? Dom now
he's backed off as well. He's backed off as well.
He has backed off.
It was a messy looking first sector for him, and I think he realised and backed it all off. The ERS is down and he's taking it quite easy. Maybe he's shaping up for one final lap. He does just have enough time to squeak it through.
Mr. John's in the wall. I just caught the end of that, but he had a tank slapper. I can't quite see on the track that is. I think that's at the end of sector 1, just coming onto the main... Oh, no, it's not. It's just... Oh, where is that?
That is the issue. That's the issue with the circuit.
I think that is actually coming towards the final few corners on the lap.
Yeah, that's the difficulty.
It is. We've got Joe Sayer coming up to the line now. Is he going to improve? He does not improve. So Joe Sayer is going to be 4th at best. And suddenly, Bossman Sean's provisional pole position is looking very safe because CJ Beach isn't improving. All pressure's on Dom. Completely
wide at the last corner there for
Thingy. And Dom was 2 tenths up in sector number 1.
Let's get on board with him then.
So could there be a late spoiler unless Bossman Sean goes any quicker? Dom very nice and neat and tidy through the chicane. Gets on the power. What's his sector 2 split looking like? He's up by a 10th.
Just going to have a look at...
Smith has got to nail the last sector and he could see himself on pole. Bossman Sean goes quicker. Oh, and Dom's backed out.
Yeah.
Oh, Dom has backed out. It was looking like such a good lap, but now he's going to be P9 at best. Drama at late stages of qualifying. Bossman Sean takes pole position. A fantastic pole for the Irishman. But you have to say, John, there was a lot of people in that session who looked like they could have gone quicker.
Yeah, I feel a lot of guys there didn't really accomplish the true potential of their car there. A lot of people backing off. Joe especially just looked like he completely backed off at the last corner while improving. I think he might have done that to save his tyres. Tyre wear can be pretty high here, and I think that might have been a reason for him backing off. But let's have a quick run off the field then. Bossman Sean on par with the Red Bull in the Red Bull Toro Rosso. Erland second, hoping to carry on his strong form ahead of Conreys, Joe Sayer, CJ Beach, Bazza, Mr. John, Michael Kenny in 8th, Dom Smith down in 9th, and then Jacko rounding off the top 10.
Yep, very much so there. So going to be interesting to see of the drivers there who feels they've got a good advantage going into turn 1. As John has pointed out earlier, it can be a little bit messy into turn 1 here, so it's going to be very crucial to see who can get the best run off the line and down then into turn number 1 and make a good run. The start seems to be just so crucial here. We saw it yesterday. Myself, I didn't get the greatest start. Lost out to Aiden quite quickly, and that run down to turn 1 is quite crucial, because if you don't get a good start, then you bog yourself down, and then suddenly you're under attack out of nowhere. And it happened to a couple of drivers last night as well, and you have to say it is crucial. But we have 5 lights for the first French Grand Prix in TGP2, and they're underway. Hopefully this time no false starters, but it's a good start from Bossman Sean, who immediately goes to cover off Erlang. We've got a Williams getting quite racy in the back there. The Renaults go side by side, but into turn 1 it's Bossman Sean.
Erlang's off.
Round. Erlang has spun himself around and falls back to 11th place. Disaster for the man in form, as Russ has also got himself out of shape, as has Michael Kenny. I don't know what's happened to Michael Kenny.
He's in space. He's in space.
Michael Kenny is in space. He's
out.
Dear. Something's happened to Michael Kenny there, and it's all kicking off in the race as Dom Smith is getting quite close to CJ, and there's contact between CJ and someone else, but I think that was a bit of lag actually, as Baz has dropped down to 7th, but Bossman Sean has had a fantastic start, as Jacko's got a 5-second time penalty already. Joe Sayer is in 2nd. Contact. Dropped to 3rd, and it's all kicking off between CJ and Dom, and I don't know if there's more lag going on here. But CJ struggling and got half a front wing, as Dom's now going to have to fend off Hammy Fan, and are these two going to have their usual annual crash? Not this time. Dom Smith takes 5th place, and he's another driver who's had a great... But Jacko has found himself into 4th. A great start from Jacko through all the carnage. Has worked himself up 6 places on the opening lap.
I can inform you, Jacko has got a penalty for corner cutting and gaining a position, so I think he might have been avoiding some chaos at the beginning there and has illegally overtook a few cars. Meanwhile, Dom and CJ definitely came together. Dom's got some heavy front wing damage on that Sauber, it's worth pointing out, as first lap's completed and Bossman Sean leads by 1.7. And Con Rees going down the inside of Joe for 2nd place there. He's able to make it stick.
Done. That is a good move. And Con will feel pretty confident in trying to hunt down Bossman Sean. Interestingly, Con not deciding not to do the alternative strategy this race, and maybe fancies his chances, but he's going to have to hunt down and pass Bossman Sean, who we know from previous seasons is a very difficult man to overtake.
Meanwhile, Erland already worked his way back up to P7 after the first lap spin. I believe there was contact with, I think it was Jack. Oh, well, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what Ferrari it was. One of the Ferraris, I think, came together with Michael Kenny.
Close going into turn 1. It was Sean, who obviously got a great start. Then we had Erlang, Joe, CJ. Who are all quite close going into turn number 2. So I don't know whether something happened, maybe between CJ and Erlang, and obviously Con was the other driver that was in that little pact, but seemed to get off okay. So I don't know.
I was on board. The camera was focusing on Erlang when the incident happened, but it looked like he got caught by a car on the outside, just clipping him round. It might have been the Renault of Joe. I can't confirm that for 100%. As Erlang goes down the inside of Mr. John into the second last corner, push him out wide for the final corner, and he will be pushed to the edge of the track, but he's going to go side by side with the Red Bull driver down the straight, down towards turn 1. Erlan looks to gain another position here for P6 as he charges back through the field. It's worth pointing out, if Erlan can finish the top 2 here, he will take the championship lead off Luca Chiapelli as Mr. John runs wide and gets a penalty. And I mean, he hasn't even gained an advantage there, but that's how strict it is here in France as the Ferraris overtake each other. Meanwhile, Bossman Sean is breaking that DRS of Con Rees, as we can see here. Con Rees 1.9 down. The closest fight on the moment is going to be the fight for what will be 5th position. Dom is trying to pull away from the gaggle of cars behind, but Erlan, Mr. John and Red Bull Kim and Baz are all in DRS. And in fact, let's have a look at Red Bull Kim, because he's been quite quiet tonight, but he had a solid result in Canada in the top 10, and he's doing well so far in 8th position. Keeping up with the main pack as well, which is very good for him. He had some struggles last season in terms of pace, but he is doing really well, so good work so far by Red Bull Kim, as he will be looking for another strong result.
Keeping an eye on the Haas driver, who's getting very close and racy on the back of Mr. John. So the Danish driver putting in a good shift so far, but he's also going to have to keep an eye on his mirrors for a very racy Baz, who's going to try and move up the inside. A little bit of contact there, and they both get away with it for now, but as we said, Kim's going to have to watch his mirrors, and maybe he'll remind himself to look a little bit closer now after that little incident, as Kim does run a little bit wide for them. That's putting him under a lot of pressure from the Mercedes driver.
Erlan pitting, he's got a speeding penalty as well. He made a very late call there with that one. Dom had run very, very wide, and it's a front wing change for the force injury as well for the first corner impact that he suffered.
Oh, and Kim's run wide, and this could be the opportunity Bather needs to get up the inside, and he's got the job done, but Kim's going to try and fight it. These two on 2 different sets of tyres, and Kim's going to try and go the long way, but locks up and does fall behind the Mercedes driver in the end. So Kim, valiant effort, but unfortunately has to settle for 7th place at the moment, and Con Rees is starting to chip away that gap at the front of Bossman Sean, as we're already halfway through lap number 4 of this French Grand Prix, which is already proving to be a fantastic debutant race in the series for a French race.
Yeah, I can just tell you that Erlan has come up behind CJ Beach, who pitted on that one, of course, so that is quite quite an interesting turn of events. I believe that he was Erlan obviously was at the back of the field on that one, so maybe that was expected. Both cars have had front wing repairs. I think Mr. John also pitted for a front wing change, and Erlan and Mr. John on the super softs at the end of the race, so they might be quite tired by the end of the race. As we can see, Bossman Sean is in the pits already, and he's got a speeding penalty. That is a disaster. It's so easy to get a speeding penalty into that pit lane. It's so close after the last corner, and it's such a low speed as well, as the super soft tyres go onto that Toro Rosso. It's a disaster for him. That'll be 5 seconds added to his race time. Meanwhile, Joe Dom is also in, and Dom as well.
Dom has also pitted. Sorry, Jonathan. Dom has also come to the pit. So crucial there in the battle for 5th place, as Baz moved up to 3rd, Kim 4th, Jacko into 2nd. But as we said, with that 5-second stop and go penalty, Dom, it's going to be interesting to see whether he comes out behind his nemesis as he's created, CJ, as we've got Bossman Sean already on the attack of Russ, and there was contact.
Russ got a penalty. Russ is off. He's had a moment of madness, that's all I can say. That's really ruined his race. He's probably going to be DSQ'd for that. He's got a 10-second time penalty for corner cut, and then a 5-second one for cutting the track again of a position on Bossman Sean, who is and then there goes Ross. I think that might have been a moment of rage, sadly, as the fight for 4th between Red Bull Kim and Jack is ongoing. It's quarter of a second separating the two as they go down the back straight here. No DRS to the second part of the Mistral Straight, as we see the Ferrari trying to have a look at making a move on the Haas there. Meanwhile, Con Rees continues to lead 12, well, just about 13 seconds clear of Jacko. Are we going to see him? Yes, and that's a yes.
Will he get a penalty?
No.
He does it right. Well done, Con. Well done, sir. Finally, someone who can enter the pits without going over the speed limit. You wouldn't have thought it was a particularly hard thing to do with a button for it, but a quick stop there for the Williams boys, who are very well known for it. A little bit slow getting away, but where's he going to come out in relation to Bossman Sean? Jacko also pits further behind. Sean on the track at the moment is coming down the start-finish straight, and he's clearly got back ahead of Con. But it's going to be interesting to see what the damage is going to be. And is Joe's going to get ahead of Con? He
Joe's
does.
jumped him.
The undercut has worked for the Renault driver.
Indeed.
And he finds himself now in a net second place.
Meanwhile, the fight for second, look at this. Red Bull Kim, elite shots of Bossman shot, they're all over the place here. Red Bull Kim is getting a nosebleed with the position. He's in second place. A brilliant job so far by him. He has yet to pit, of course. And here comes Bossman Sean running outside.
Surely.
That is not going to work at all. But he is fighting hard. He's got to get past these guys that have yet to pit. Joe is closing in rapidly. As we can see there, they're almost three abreast down the straight. As we come to the end of the DRS zone on the brakes. What happens here? Oh, this contact, that's a broken wing.
Contact, and Sean's lost him his front wing.
Yeah, the move hasn't really gone. Oh, he's been pushed wide there.
He's nearly in the wall. Kim nearly puts him in the wall.
This is all for position, remember. These guys are fighting for position. There's no blue flags here. As Bossman Sean now has a look down the inside. He hits Red Bull Kim again. That's going to be even more damage to that front wing of the Toro Rosso. And Red Bull Kim comes back at him.
Someone up the inside, and I don't know how they're not sideways. And Joe's going to go try and get around the outside of both of them. And Con's getting involved. And all of this because of a fighting Jack Craig and Kim has suddenly closed the top three to a couple of car lengths. And suddenly Joe, who was falling behind in third before the stops, has found himself battling for the lead as Sean is all over the curb, and that's going to give him an awful exit onto the start-finish straight where there is DRS.
Joe's having a run as well.
Joe's going to surely be having a look into turn number one, is he? Joe Sayer on the inside, moves into a net lead, does he? No, not quite. Con Reese is still there, these three battling Hammer and Tongas. Kong's got a great exit, and he's having a go up the inside of Joe now. He's going to get him to turn three. He does. Joe has to bow out of it, and suddenly Con is in a prime position to take the lead. As Sean still getting very close to the back of Jack
contact!
Craig.
There's been major contact.
And Joe's got a good exit, and he's got up the inside of Con.
There's massive lag with Jack. Bossman Sean's gone right into the back of Jack's car, and then
Elite Shots has gone.
Con Reese has gone straight into the back of Bossman Sean. That's allowed Joe to get through to a net second.
The net top three have now got front wing damage.
And Joe's got a 5-second stop go penalty for cutting a corner and gaining a place, avoiding the carnage.
I don't quite know how he's got that.
This is all very, very quickly coming back towards Erlan, who is down in 7th place. He is, well, I say it's coming back to him. He's actually about 10 seconds off still. But the way these three are fighting, that could easily get eradicated before the end as Red Bull Kim gets past Jack's now ghosting Ferrari. Ghost cars have caused some trouble in TGP this season. Remember the infamous incident in Monaco with the ghost car catching out a couple of guys.
So Sean has got a 5-second penalty. Joe has got one, but I imagine that will be taken off due to the nature it was given, because I didn't see him gaining a position while running off circuit. Con hasn't got a penalty, but has got front wing damage. But does
He's pitted. That's an interesting call.
Brave, as Joe is going to try and go around the outside of Bossman Sean into turn number one, and he's got the move done as we got a yellow flag further back in sector number 3. I think Elite Shots found himself off the track, and has Erlang got damage?
I've just spotted, but I thought Bossman Sean may have just cut the corner there. And let's have a look at Erlan. Yeah, there is definite damage on that Force India. There is CJ there, and oh my god, it's all happening so quickly.
He's dropped back to 10th.
What a disaster. He's still in the pit lane apparently, according to the live timing.
He's only just leaving now.
That is a disaster for the Williams.
So, let's give you a rundown of the order, because I need to have a look, because I can't even keep up at the moment. So, Joe Sayer is just about got the lead from Bossman Sean. Both of these two with 5-second penalties. One a little bit more disputed than the other, you have to say. Erlang 10 seconds back, but with a damaged front wing. CJ in 4th. I don't think he's got damage. I'm trying to have a look at his front wing as he heads out of the chicane at the moment. It doesn't look like it, but he has got Bazza all over his tail. Jacko picks some penalty further back, and Bazza's just pitted for tyres. He's feeling super confident on those at the moment. And is he going to try and move on to CJ? Not at the moment. He thinks better of it. But Dom Smith, who's having a very quiet race down there in 6th. Mr. John 7th is being put under a lot of pressure from his teammate. And what's happened, John?
Bazza has just got into the back of a laggy CJ and his front wing damage on the Mercedes. CJ's run wide on the corner there. He's got to come back onto the road ahead though. There's no gained position. He was ahead as at the time, I was just about to go and have a look at the Red Bull fight. Mr. John and Jacko were within a car length of each other, but then that impact happened, and let's see what's going on with the Mercedes.
And Bazza's got a good run, and they head across the start-finish line, and Bazza has initially taken the position as he pulls out of CJ's wake, and hopefully his lag as well, which is still going on. You have to say, I'm on board with his car at the moment. I barely know where he is on track, but Bazza then moves up into 4th place. Erlang is closing the gap to Bossman Sean, but the gap with him and Joe is staying the same. So that is interesting. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, of course, for the latter stages of the race.
CJ massively wide just before the straight there. Bossman Sean obviously with the major front wing damage. Joe, I don't think has any serious front wing damage. I think it might have been minor, but that is definitely making him struggle. As you can see, Erlang now has got Bazza already on the back of him. Bazza's caught up very quickly. Flying. It's worth pointing out Bazza on the alternate strategy on the Ultra Softs. He's only been on them for a lap or two as well, so he's going to be very quick towards the end of the race as the gap between 2nd and 3rd continues to fall, but the gap between 3rd and 4th is non-existent.
Is falling just as rapidly, and Bazza is absolutely flying on those softer tyres. He was 9/10 of a second quicker than the fastest lap so far in the middle sector alone. So with the DRS and the fresh tyres, the Mercedes driver is absolutely rapid as Joe heads on now to start the final 4 laps. We now have to watch the battle for 3rd position, and sooner or later Bossman Sean's going to be drawn into this battle because they're gaining roughly about 2.5 seconds a lap as Bazza sets the fastest lap of the race at 34.6, and he's pressuring Erlang. He moves to the inside line. He's got the inside. There's nearly contact. Erlang runs a little bit wide, but Bazza runs wider. But he's got the exit. They've got a Ferrari in front of them as Con Rees now decides he wants a bit of the fastest lap. And is Bazza going to throw one down the inside? He thinks better of it, but Erlang runs wide. And this is all going to help him onto the mid-range straight down the inside, and it was very close, but it's just about okay, and they nearly make contact. I can barely speak, but somehow Bazza's got the place, and he moves up into 3rd.
But look, can they drag it along with him? It's CJ Peach on the oldest tyre, well, near enough the oldest tyres on the field. He's been on those soft tyres ever since the end of that one, but he's still managed to keep up with him.
The DRS, but Bazza closes the door, and that may be opportunity gone for Erlang. But these two are going to start reeling in Sean, who even at the moment, I don't know if Bazza's got a penalty. I can't remember if he got one or not, but they're already within 5 seconds of Sean.
I know so Erlang has. Erlang has got a penalty, but this could. I don't. Bazza got a corner cut penalty, I believe, but they are reeling in that Toro Rosso so quickly. Even while fighting, they've gained 2 seconds this lap on Bossman Sean in P2, who is just losing bucket loads of time with that front wing damage. It's almost like he hasn't got a front wing at all. Meanwhile, in the background, Dom Smith, Mr. John, fight for 6th. There we go. Mr. John trying to go around the what would be the outside, and Dom's given him the place. Dom has conceded a position. So that was a very short-lived fight.
As well at the moment, though, in this sort of net battle for 2nd, Erlang, of course, has picked up a little bit of front-wing damage. Not as much as Sean, but he is being hampered by that as well, and that is helping CJ pull through. As we're seeing Dom Smith and Mr. John, battle continues for 6th place. Dom round the outside gets the job done. He runs a little bit wide though, and that's going to give a great opportunity to Mr. John, who runs really wide, and his teammate almost runs wider as John comes back onto the track. And heading down to turn number 3 is going to be outside, which becomes the inside. Where's Jacko in all of this?
Oh, he's at the inside.
The inside of his teammate, and there's contact. The 2 Red Bulls do not want to take each other out. These are some great points they're both scoring at the moment for the team. But we've got John at the inside, and meanwhile Bazza's just 3/10 of a second off of poor Sean. And he's going to make a move to the inside at the end of chicane. Bazza for 2nd, doesn't get it done, but Sean runs wide. And he's going to try and go around the outside. What a move from Bazza! Fantastic racing. And he's got the job done, and Dom Smith has dropped to 8th place as the Red Bulls swarm him, but Jacko's had an awful exit, and that gives Dom Smith a fantastic opportunity. It's all going on at the moment as Dom Smith does move up to 7th place. So great racing from them there as Erlang now moves behind Sean, and there's lag and contact. I don't know if that was actually contact. There was a lot of lag. Jacko picked up another penalty. Erlang has got the job done on Sean, and CJ is being left behind a little bit now. But this is going to give a great opportunity to Bazza to see if he can even close the gap on Joe and try and get himself another gap to Erlang. to try and alleviate that penalty, but will his tyres last? We've got 2 laps to go, and Joe has got nearly a 10-second lead. He's checked out at the front. While we've been watching Sean losing all this time, the gap between what was third and first has relatively stayed the same, as CJ's going to have a look at the inside of Sean there. Sean gets scared of it, runs out wide, and CJ moves to 4th.
Yeah, the Toro Rosso is done for with that damage. You can see it there, that just the near enough the entire right hand side of that wing is just missing, and it must be destroying his tyres, which are 7 laps old. It's about as old as, well, it's not as old as the 2 in front of him, but it is a lot older than Baz's tyres. But the Ultrasofts don't last very long here. But that's just the extent of the damage to that wing that he cannot keep up. Meanwhile, we've got a fight on for 7th. Dom, Jacko and Con Rees. Con Rees is about to have a look up the Red Bull onto the straight. He's going to get that done quite easily.
Both of them.
It's straight line speed
Dom
again,
Smith
though.
Not on the DRS. Con Rees on the DRS, and fantastically good tyre wear. As Jacko's going to try and go around the outside, runs very wide. He's about to become another penalty.
That's a penalty. Yep. 5 seconds.
Yeah. Gosh. And he got ahead of Dom, actually.
And now he's going to give the place back.
I don't think Jacko really cares at this point.
I don't think
concedes the place to Con Rees as well.
Takes out a couple of advertisers
CJ
the meanwhile.
has got the gap back down to Erlang, so less than a second.
And Con Rees is off. And that's let Jacko back through for 8th.
As Joe says, about to start the final lap of the race.
And now Jacko's just completely cutting the track. That's just silliness, really, from the Red Bull driver there. As Con Rees almost goes right into the back of the Red Bull. It's almost like they're trying to play dodgems with each other here. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on that in the last lap. As you can just see, they're just really pushing hard.
This is the closest battle on track at the moment. The fight for 7th between Dom Smith, Jacko, who's got about half a minute of penalties, and Con Rees, who's had no luck on his return to TGP tonight, as Jacko made a late lunge on Dom Smith there, scared Dom Smith off the road as Con Rees runs wide in the background, but that gives him a great exit, and it could give him the run he needs on the Red Bull driver. He's going to have a look up the inside. He scares Jacko off the track, who cuts another corner and picks up another penalty, but he's got a great exit now, and that annoyingly could help him get away from Con Rees, and that's given him a fantastic exit on Dom Smith to head on to the main straight then. Jacko, the Red Bull driver, this isn't going to really mean anything unless he takes him out. Dom Smith immediately covers that inside line, and we've got Con Rees picking up a double toe, Jacko picking up a toe, and they're going to get very close into the chicane as Mr. John's got ahead of Bossman Sean. Jacko decides to cut another corner and spins, and he takes out Dom, and Con's going to get the run on Dom. He needs as well to move up into 7th. Disaster for Dom from Jacko cutting the corner, loses out a lot of time as Sean and John's battle continues. But we're going to have to go to Joe Sayer at the front, who out of nowhere, you have to say, has kept his head down and got on with it, and it's going to win the inaugural TGP2 Grand Prix of France. Jack has been disqualified from the back as Joe weaves. It's his first race win in a long time, and Renault finally get their first of the season on home soil. Joe Sayer wins. Baza comes home in 2nd. Is Erlang going to be 2nd? No, he's not. Baza just about claims that one. CJ will be 4th. Mr. John's going to come home in 5th. Great race for him. He does beat Bossman Sean. Oh no, he doesn't. Penalties do come into effect. Con Rees, what a race he's had. Another eventful race for him. Will come home in 7th. Dom Smith 8th. Jacko in 9th, but I doubt he'll stay there. Kim is going to come home in 10th. Russ, of course, is a lap down after raging leaving earlier. But, John, I'm going to have to go to bed with some strep pills tonight because I'm going to lose my voice with all the action that's happened.
Yeah, what a crazy race that was in the last few laps. It was near impossible to keep up with what was going on. So many battles, so many cars scrapping for positions, left, right and centre. But ahead of them all, calmly doing the business, and for the first time in, I dread to think how many races, Joe Sayer has won a TGP2 race, and he will be absolutely over the moon with that. It's been a very long time coming. I dare say longer than the gap between Kimi Raikkonen's wins, which ended up the last weekend.
Right. I think you have to look back, in all honesty, maybe even to season 14, when he of course won his last title. That's the last time I can remember Joe Sayer winning a race, but it probably feels like a lot longer, because Joe Sayer is finally back on the top step of the podium. And as you said, just a cool, calm and collective race from him to come home first while everyone was scrapping behind. Joe Sayer wins the inaugural French Grand Prix in TGP2. Baza for Mercedes brings his car home second. Good race for Baza in the end. Erlang comes home in third. Good result for him considering where he was at the end of lap 1. CJ will be fourth. Bossman Sean will be gutted to be fifth. Mr. John, a good result from him in sixth. Conry seventh. Another very eventful race for him. Dom Smith in 8th place. I think he'll be gutted with that all in all. Jacko in 9th, picked up 28 seconds worth of penalties in the end. Rebel Kim comes home 10th. Russ in 11th. And Jack comes home in 12th. And Michael Kenny, unfortunately, well, his race barely started. So, Johners, what are your thoughts from tonight's racing then? Just give us your sort of debrief of tonight's events.
I'd have to say the fighting in TGP2 is as fierce as ever, and some surprise winners. I think we'll have to say Erlan, first win ever for him. Joe, first win in a very, very long time, which you'll be over the moon about. But it's really allowed the championship to close up with Cheetah Petty not being here tonight. I do believe Erlan, I believe he finished third up the end of that race. It is 1 point indeed, and that is going to be incredible to see next week when we continue on with TGP2, and I believe, correct me if I am wrong, we are in Austria and Britain, the home of the Formula One Championship, some will say.
Very much so. Well, John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me in the commentary box tonight. He's been John Luke Taylor. I've been Mike Noon. This has been a TGP broadcast for the TGP2 series, sponsored by BetNoon.com and Sayre Sports UK. I've been Mike Noon, as I said. We'll see you on PS4. Wow, what a knock.